Hello everybody, my name is Dr. What we have here is Kerbal Space Program, the tutorial part 2. We are going to go head to the Mun. So let's build our first Mun rocket after we load into the game. Now the Mun rocket shouldn't be too difficult to build. I know that you might not need quite a lot of text, but overall I don't think it's too difficult. This is pretty much another recreation of the moon mission, even though our Kerbal Space Program is called the Mun. So what we are going to do is we are going to make the landing stage and the return stage right now by adding a heat shield here, decoupler, and then this part. Now what is essential for this mission is to include landing gear and to retract them as per in this version. Once you get this landing gear out, it is already extended, so you would want to retract it. So you would want to place the first one on the back of this just to maintain balance and to allow some more mobility between here in the capsule. But something we have is that we have yet to research the mobility enhancers. So, but that's okay because since we are on the Mun, that doesn't matter because of the low gravity. You can use a jetpack to get around. So I'm going to do this and place the engine stage over here, the decoupler stage right here. Let's put 2 electric charge batteries here, 2 science, and then what else? Let's put some mystery goo. Where should we put the mystery goo? Maybe around here, about where the battery is right now. I'll probably move the battery a bit, but anyway, let's make sure the battery does not cover the barometer or the thermometer. Maybe up here is good, although it looks a little awkward with it on the parachute as if it's going to come flying off. But anyway, we are almost done with our first stage. Now what we're going to do is we are going to use some stages to get into orbit, kind of like the Kerblex does. For this mission, we are going to use the Reliant liquid fuel engine because that one is quite powerful compared to the swivel engine. And we are also going to use solid fuel boosters to get us into orbit. And make sure it's in line. Or how about, actually, you know what, how about we use the Thumper engines? Because these ones have a longer burn time. Here, aerodynamic nose cone. We are almost good to go with the winglet. Let's put the winglet right here. And to have some aerodynamics, since the Reliant liquid fuel engine does not have a gimbal, unlike the swivel engine. Swivel right here, gimbal vector range 3, angle 3, whereas the Reliant doesn't, but it has a more powerful thrust, so that way that'll help us get into space. And then we're also going to use some Thud side engines to help us get into orbit. And now let's review our stages. So first, our main engine and our Thud engines and and Thumper engines. Thun and Thumper are quite a similar name, but all of these seven are going to fire at once we launch, and then once the Thud or the Thumper engines run out, they are going to decouple from the main stage. And then once these engines run out, then this next stage decouples. We can actually put this in here. Um, but anyway, I think we might be good to go. And let's name this first Mon mission. And also, we have one more thing to check before we go to see if there is any contract with landing on the Mun. Mission control, exploration, explore the Mun, part testing, and then what else? Surveys, tourism, the destination and back, displays flight on Kerbin. Okay, so it looks like we cannot. Looks like actually we cannot accept any of these contracts yet because apparently we don't have the contracts to use. But anyway, let's also maybe something that we could do is we can remove those winglets and let's actually replace them with hammer engines, since these are sort of a can help us get up into the atmosphere a bit easier, since their thrust is still pretty powerful. Although this one is a bit more powerful, but it's quite heavy, and mass matters in Kerbal Space Program, especially if you want to go to the Mun in the beginning stages of the game. But for the sake of safety, let's just add a winglet right here. I think we are good to go now, and let's make sure Jebediah is in there. Yep, he is. Flight checklist. There is a missing ladder that can be fixed later in the game. Electric charge required but not generated. We don't have solar panels. Electric charge stored but not generated. It's pretty much the same thing. Cannot transmit science. And unused monopropellant source. So unused monopropellant source, we are going to take that out. And now we can, or rather almost now, we can head on over to the Mun, and once we get these two communitrons to go. Alright, let's go to the Mun. Alright, so before we launch, let's make sure we are well in line with the Mun here. Make sure it's around, let's see, where's the Mun? Okay, here it is. Let's make sure it's around, maybe here, I think would be a good place. Okay, without further ado, let's launch. I actually made a mistake. I should have grouped these with the main engines. Okay, looks like that's fixed. And then let's try this again. Wait for the Mun to be around. Okay, here it is. It's time warp to make the Mun around over just above the VAB. I think this is good. And here we go. We have a great liftoff right now towards the Mun. Something that I noticed is that we are actually going quite fast, but the problem is that the liquid fuel engines consume quite a lot of fuel, so I'm not sure if I want to save that for some more delta V, or rather meters per second left of thrust. And also we would want to try to avoid going too fast, because otherwise we may burn up. But anyway, think we're almost escaping the atmosphere. So let's go forth. Okay, the apoapsis is rising quite quickly. 300,000, 400,000, and we're about to run out of fuel. So let's activate our landing stage. Maybe I should have used a second stage for the lander, because usually I include another stage in between, but this time I didn't for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, let's set the Mun as our target, and let's see if we have enough delta V. And also something else about the Mun is that you can use it as a gravity assist to get out of Kerbin orbit, and then you can go to do a flyby of the sun and then you can also go to Duna, which I made a video on that not too long ago. But anyway, it looks like we are 1,649 meters is our periapsis orbiting the Mun. Let's quick saves in case anything goes wrong. Alright. Here it is, the Mun. Now, so it seems like we have a good periapsis. So I'm going to retrograde now, since our pilot does have the skill, but I'm afraid we don't have enough delta V to land. So I'm gonna go back to the vehicle assembly, and I am going to add some more fuel to the spacecraft by adding this and another one. Okay, let's try this. Let's try this again after we reorientate our stages. Okay, here we go. Alright, let's launch. Actually, you know what, I made a mistake because I forgot to wait until the Mun was at a good position for launching. So let's retry this round again. And let's look at the angle of the Mun. Here it goes. And maybe around here would be a bit better to conserve meters per second of thrust, because that way we'd have to experience less gravity. Let's set it as our target. So I think now we have enough fuel to get to the Mun. I'm not 100% sure, but let's try to make sure, because in Kerbal Space Program, especially in easy mode, you would want to try conserving your fuel once you get up there. I forgot what I was going to say next, but anyway, we're entering the mesosphere. Let's head up to the Mun. So our apoapsis is now 1.5k meters, rather kilometers above above Kerbin sea level. Let's see if we have. I'm just gonna run this time just to see if we have enough thrust to get to the Mun, because we might not. And then let's start our second stage. Okay, here it is, the Mun. Oh, we could view our velocity at Mun perhaps. No, let's focus view just to see. Okay, let's gauge that. So let's make it as low as possible, preferably around this 5 kilometers above Mun or sea level, except Mun doesn't really have a sea or any body of water. But anyway, let's quick save and hope for the best once we get into Munner orbit. Okay, we're almost here. Surface. It's also important to see how fast you're going relative to the surface. Okay, I think we have enough delta V2. We have enough delta V2 to land on the Mun. So as you can see here, we have 1,000 meters per second of rocket fuel remaining. You can use these delta V tools, which you can access in the VAB to change your preference of what you want to see over here. I can see like the thrust and everything. We are almost okay. We are now becoming now beginning to be stationary in relative to the Munner surface. Okay, we have landed on the Mun with not much liquid fuel remaining, but we could fix that eventually. Oh, don't knock that over, Jebediah. Okay, so now that we have upgraded the buildings last order, we can now plant flags and take surface samples, which is something that we didn't have access to last video, as I didn't think it would be that necessary to upgrade. But anyway, let's name our first flag First Mun Landing. The flag text will be First Kerbal to the Mun. And let's take a surface sample and read. Surface sample from the Mun's Midlands. The darker Midlands surface appears to be made up of basaltic rock. So we're in the Midlands. Let's do an EVA report. EVA report from the Mun's Midlands. You start to say something dramatic and poignant about the plight of Kerbal kind in this grand universe, but only to be cut off by random radio chatter, and the situation is nominal. Let's keep that experiment. And let's do some of our other experiments while we are landed on the Mun. Let's grab on and And let's observe our mystery goo. The goo observation, excuse me, the goo observation from the goo observation from appears to be the same state of awe as you are. So that means that it's rather still as we are on the Mun. But let's log the temperature. Temperature scan from the Mun's Midlands. The thermometer can't seems to make up its mind whether it's hot or cold here. The barometer says the atmospheric pressure. They say insanity is doing the same thing multiple times and expecting a different result. You always check the atmospheric pressure again anyways. So let's see our display. It says in vacuum and our temperature is 211.98 Kelvin. So that's definitely below 0 Celsius, but I'm kind of surprised. It's quite hot here on the surface of the Mun for a planet, or rather for a celestial object or body. Okay, right. Let's um. So we now have data for we now have data for 6 experiments. Curve report. Out of the Midlands, the only flat place on this not made of cheese rock. So I would recommend transmitting that data. And then let's review our EVA report. Do not transmit the surface sample, by the way, because otherwise it won't be worth as much science. But let's also transmit our EVA report, which is okay. So our EVA report is now done. So now we can take another crew report once we blast off back for Kerbin. Okay, another three. Okay, so also something to note is that no matter how fast you time warp, Kerbin will always be above you if you're in the same if your coordinates are the same as you are in my case. And suddenly we've run out of electric charge, but that's okay because um we have an alternator on this like a fuel engine, and since it's crewed, we can activate it. So 3, 2, 1, let's launch. After we actually, you know what? Okay, 3, 2, 1, launch. And we have an apoapsis of 7 km, 12, 18, 19, 20, 22, 25, 27, 30, and then 54. So let's toggle our RCS, and let's try to push the rocket because I know EVA. I'm not sure if this one exactly works. I mean, the problem is that the rocket is spinning. So I think we might have to redo this mission. All right. Come on. Yeah, I think we might have to we'll have to redo this mission. All right, let's go. So let's see. Let's add 4 more fuel tanks. Let's go even more radical than last time about the fuel, because fuel is quite valuable. Or how about we add a second stage instead of all that? Okay, so this one. Okay, so right here, let's alright, so right here, the Reliant engine is at the bottom. Those 3, those 10, I should say. All the fuel tanks up here, the coupler, the engine, the coupler engine, and then parachute stage. Let's try this again. I think this time it should work because we have more delta V. So let's go up. And we have, or rather, let's waited. I should have waited for the mon. Okay. Let's see. So the mon is up there. Let's time warp a bit. That way we can launch once it's right over the VIB around here. And then let's launch up into the Kerbin sky. And we left quite some clouds here. I might even explore this area, because I know with this launch pad you can go under it, whereas the most upgraded launch pad you cannot. So that's something that I have yet to explore and show to you guys. Okay, we're almost out of solid fuel, or at least these ones. And these solid fuel boosters down there just collided, which is why that sound played. But we have quite a good delta V with the second stage. Anyway, let's continue on to infinity and beyond. We can also a quick trick, once you're in space, if you hold right shift, if you hold right shift, and then time warp, then that'll get you to this more dynamic time warp, which you can run the engines and stuff. So I think that's something good. That's something that we should use whenever going to the mon. If you're too lazy, if you're too boring, I shouldn't say lazy, but rather if you're too boring, if it's too boring to just sit through it with 1x time warp, you can go up to 4x time warp by holding R shift and period, and then comma just decreases the time warp. Okay, so we have, and also the good thing about the stage is that it's a bit more fine-tuning for when we get to the mon, like the mon periapsis, but we don't have enough delta V for that, so we'll have to do the landing stage anyway. Weird. Why are we something weird, a bit weird with the mon preferences? Apparently we're gaining mon altitude. I'm not sure if we're still in. We're in vacuum now. Wonder why it's still going up. It's kind of weird. Anyway, let's time warp to the mon. Here we go. Oh, and let's quick save. Quick save number 7. Okay, let's start the retrograde burn. And let's arm our docking port. Okay, let's transmit this crew report. Observe this mystery goo. Keep that experiment. Log the temperature. Log the barometer. Okay, so the crew report has been transmitted. I'm going to do another EVA report, but I cannot now do EVA reports because we are currently doing a burn. But I might do that once we. Well, I'm gonna do that once we're on the surface, and then once we go off, back off into space, I'm gonna do another EVA report. That way we can get more science out of this. Anyway, we are almost stationary to the Mun's the Mun's surface. It's also important to switch this to surface and not keep it at orbit because the Mun surface does move very slightly, but although it's tightly locked, which means Kerbin, if you land with Kerbin above you, it'll always stay above you as long as you land in that exact same spot. Um, Alright, and also you would want to fall around at around 3 meters per second, I'd say. 3 meters per second. If it's below 1, then the retrograde will turn off. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why it does that. But anyway, we have landed on the Mun. Okay, let's take another crew report. We can transmit that. Actually, let's not, because we would want to save electric charge. And also something important, that once you land, it's important that you put on time warp. That way you don't consume extra electric charge sent from SAS. I also recommend keeping these experiments as much as you can. That experiment has been done. Let's see. Inoperable after transmission. Okay, so now we have a different one, which is from the Mun's, again from the Mun Minerals, and it says, the guru is as giddy as a schoolgirl. Right here. Let's also log the thermometer display. It's quite cold here. The say is the same thing. Again, I'll probably go over that at the science center. I'll show you guys a trick that you can do. Whoa, what? Okay, let's see. Just above Mun's Midlands over here, you can take an EVA report. I'm gonna transmit that because it's worth the full value anyways. Review stored data, and let's transmit that. Do another EVA. Do an EVA report here. Take a surface sample. Remember, do not transmit the surface sample. Very important. Especially if you want to save electric charge and save science data. Okay, EVA report. I'm also going to transmit this. And then the next EVA we do, it's gonna be up there. Okay, let's save the game and let's launch off the Mun's surface. Here we go. And also something, if you get intrigued and click into view, then the way you can get out of it is that you can press C on your keyboard and you will exit out of the IVA, or rather internal view. And that way you can, and the internal view looks pretty good, especially with the plane parts, but this part, the view is quite limited. Anyway, we are almost escaping the Mun. Okay. Okay, from here, let's do our very last EVA report, and it looks like it's actually the same value. Anyway, I think maybe that was that. Maybe I should have not have transmitted that since I have quite a limited supply of electric charge. But anyway, we're getting home. And this part is pretty important when you do, once you hit the apoapsis, do a retrograde burn. That way you can get that way it's aimed on the periapsis, and that's why you require the least burn time. And looks like we have enough delta V to get us back into curb back into Kerbin. Actually, okay, so you don't have enough. So let's see. Okay, yep, we just ran out of fuel. That was so close. Dang it. Anyway, let's but you know what? There's two last things to do. We can decouple. That's not enough. Okay, so this is the okay. Only use this in the last. I recommend only using this as a last resort. Is using EVA propellant to propel this a bit this way. Except I think maybe we should not. Let's use Jebediah Kerman's back jetpack to push the command pod, as the command pod is not as heavy as a whole rocket. Let's see, we are actually descending. So if that happens, then you can use your own Kerbals EVA propellant to get the whole thing, to get the whole ship to get the whole command pod to do a return orbit. Let's see, the periapsis 71 kilometers above sea level. Let's continue pushing. And we have quite a lot of EVA repellent, and surprisingly, EVA repellent is quite efficient. So that's something. That's also something good about the EVA propellant. 48, 47, 46, 45, 44, 43. And if it happens to be rising very, very rapidly, that means your Kerbal got off the command pod. But once you're about 30,000, I recommend, once you're around 30, okay, I recommend stopping around here if you, what happened to the camera? Oh geez, what's happening? Anyway, let's see, the crew hatch is right there. It's quite difficult, especially since it's coincidental, since our view is coincidentally blocked by Kerbin, so we cannot. Okay, here we go. I think now we can. Okay, let's see if we can do if our EVA report is good enough. Actually, we do have a good EVA report. Anyway, let's save the game in case anything wrong happens. I think I can do. Actually, you know what? We don't need stability assistance just yet. Okay, here is Kerbin. We're going to go quite fast, and well, right here is the KSC. What a coincidence that the KSC is right there, where my cursor is. Okay. I think we are going to splash down, and splash down I think is a bit more dangerous than you're more likely to explode on a splashdown. Yep, we're going to splash down. You're more likely to explode on a splashdown, unfortunately. But anyway, I think we can still. But we are still going to get even more science from that drop. So now we have officially entered Kerbin's atmosphere, and our apoapsis is starting to decrease. as our heat shield is taking the albedo hit. As you can see, the albedo is sort of decreasing, um, to protect us. Yeah. Sad thing is our mystery goo is starting to heat up. I don't know if we should transmit that. Let's see. Wait, I think it's the mystery goo should be good because I see it sort of going down. Well, what's wrong with the camera? Jeez, now it's doing that. Okay, our apoapsis is now 300 kilometers above sea level. 1.5, 500. Okay, there is land, but we're gonna probably gonna land in the sea anyways. I don't know, let's try to land on land, or maybe, you know what, maybe in the sea, because we haven't done a sea surface sample. You know, we might actually, no, we're gonna land in the sea, guys. Alright, guys, we're going to land in the sea. Let's deploy our parachutes once we are at a good altitude. And let's also save the game in case anything weird happens. I always like to save the game for that reason. And we are experiencing around 6 G's of force just then. Jebediah Kerbin is our star pilot. He has officially got onto the Mun and back. And splashdown. Let's okay. So now something after you splash down, something I highly recommend if you really want to grind science is to go out of the command pod. Take a surface sample from it. It's a sample from Kerbin's water. Do that, you get 24 signs from recovery, and then another EVA report. Help, where's lifeguard when you need them? Report from Kerbin's water. Now, the important thing is to avoid entering the command pod, because if you do, that dumps away your other EVA report and or a surface sample. So you would want to drop, if you land in the water, you would want to drop your Kerbal into the water and recover the vessel, or rather recover your Kerbal, and then go into the tracking center and recover your Kerbal, or rather your spacecraft. That way you get all the science. Okay, we got that. And now let's go to the tracking station. And here it is, first Mun mission splashed down. We are going to recover this boy. And we got 240 science from a surface sample, which is quite high, especially since you return with that surface sample. And I think the reason why the surface sample is not worth as much on transmission as recovery, because the scientists actually get to analyze that surface sample whenever it's recovered. So that's something so that's something I think that makes sense why that kind of transmission of surface samples pull reports isn't as worth as much on transmission. Yeah, and we also forgot to add a flag onto the Mun, but that is okay. And then first Mun mission debris. This debris is orbiting Kerbin. If you ever want to, if you do not like debris orbiting Kerbin, you can simply terminate the mission. You can certainly terminate the mission, or rather terminate the debris, and that way it'll stop tracking it, and it'll ultimately delete the space debris. Okay, so let's terminate. Destroy the vessel. Let's just double check. I think this is good. Let's terminate. And then the orbiter debris First Mon mission debris. Let's see where this one goes. Well, into an escape trajectory into the sun. That's something. So the first debris to ever enter the sun. This is how the Mun is so useful. So now this debris is orbiting the sun. Let's also terminate. Okay, let's terminate the other orbiter debris. Or rather, actually, we can recover it. Recover this vessel and leave the facility. And that way we have got 1,056 science from doing this all. Over here, let's do general construction. You can now research all these nodes. Like I can research heavy rocketry, propulsion systems, fuel systems, and this is quite a good. The fuel duct is pretty good for getting out of the Kerbin's atmosphere and for other good stuff. This strut connector is also valuable. It's also valuable. We get to research the aviation, except these aviation parts are not useful because you cannot land with these gear. Unfortunately, I can demonstrate to you in the next video about airplanes, flying your first space plane. But anyway, let's research all this good information. Let's research electrics, which contains the all valuable photovoltaic array. And let's see. We also, if we research this, we can also get a control heat array, system array. Miniaturization, that's for like little stack separators and a small docking port. And if you have like the ScanSat mod, then you can research this and you can get the resolution imager. That's only if you have the mod. Let's see what else. Space exploration. There's you can get this rover wheel. You can make more. You can make a Mon rover with this. And then I think one of the most valuable things to have is this command module. It has built-in RCS thrusters, so if you ever forget to add RCS thrusters, this one has them pre-built. Yeah, see, service bay, and the viewing cupola, the lander can. The lander can I haven't used as much as this one, but now we have it researched, I think it is good. Okay, I'm gonna end this video right here. If you liked the video, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.